yes, I'm Lux and I'm the Community Engagement Manager for Transfield Services. We're a large global organisation focusing on maintenance and operations. So we work on various contracts across the globe and work in very remote, regional, but also in metropolitan areas. And I guess I might be a little bit the odd one out today because I'm not actually talking about direct employment of people with a disability, but more the indirect engagement that's taken place within our organisation. So I'm I guess that indirect engagement has occurred particularly from within my team, and whereas we very much focus on the corporate social responsibility for our organisation. And what I do is basically look at how we can better engage with the local communities in which we work. And our projects and initiatives have a strong focus on young people and on Indigenous participation. So within that young people space, I guess, we try to identify how we can better engage with young people with a disability. And we've come up with a number of initiatives within our organisation that assist, I guess, young people with a disability on their decision making around their career pathways. So we provide a number of work experience opportunities within our corporate offices, but also within our contracts. So for example, within our corporate office, it has a very strong focus on business administration. So young kids will come in from local schools here, for example, within Melbourne, from specialist schools, come and work with us for 1 day a week for blocks of 5 weeks, and assist us with some administration projects and other tasks within our office. So that has been a very successful initiative. It allowed, I guess, a number of young people to just, I guess, test and see if that actually what they want to do. And it allowed our organisation as well to sort of accommodate certain things that we probably needed to look into by employing people with a disability, because of the different, I guess, disabilities that people had in coming into our workforce. On our contracts, we have, there's, I guess, more opportunities for young people to be exposed to a different array of services that we provide. And one of our contracts that and one of our clients that we work with is the Department of Defence. So we maintain and operate the defence sites across Australia, not all, but many of them. And we do hospitality and catering, grounds maintenance, sport and recreation, facility maintenance, etc. So bringing young people onto those sites is really giving them an opportunity to seek out what kind of areas they really like within that space. So for that, we've rolled out many projects that are in most cases blocks of 5 days in 1 week. And young people will go through a mock interview scenario. They will come and work for us for that particular 1 week and assist us with many tasks on those particular sites. What it has done, obviously, is not only they've been exposed to the types of stuff that we do in our business, but also actually just being in a work environment, arriving on time, dressing appropriately, etc. And I guess it's just another way for a business to provide opportunities for people with a disability. We do that in another way as well through indirect engagement with a number of social enterprises that have a strong focus on people with a disability, but that's, I guess, for another time. I could easily talk about for many more minutes about how it's not about, I guess, in creating those opportunities for young people with a disability, but how extremely rewarding it has been for our employees to be involved in those projects. And exactly what Mark was talking about, what's happening in Canada, about how extremely appreciated people within our organisations actually are about us as a business creating those opportunities. So I guess I might just want to leave it at that. There's many more things to talk about, but I might just pass it on to someone else.
Thank you, Losh. Thank you very much. Is there work experience way back when in high school? Well, it's not way back when for me. Of course, you're young, fresh faced, and new, you understand. But that is not to be underestimated. For me, it was a journey into real work, full time. And for people with disabilities, people who are disengaged from work, people who have barriers to employment, they don't have much experience at work. We take it for granted. Look at us, business breakfast, in the suits, bright and early in the morning, talking to business people. That is a foreign world for many people. And Work Solutions Gippsland is organising what they call a Work Shadow Day. It's in the next month or so. They've got 180 employers to say, yes, for one day, I will have one person shadow me as I go about my work. They've secured everyone from politicians to publicans to printing presses to all sorts of occupations that begin with P. And other letters as well. And that one day of work experience is exceedingly valuable to the people who will receive that work experience. It is a foreign world, it's an entry, and by the way, of course the evil conspiracy is it works both ways. Because we're going to have people in the hundreds with disabilities in workplaces. So it might be the first experience the other way as well. So work experience, if you can offer that, there are people in this room who would be only too happy to hear from you, dear employers. Work experience is a valuable first step. All right, there end the sermon. I'm a big believer in work experience. Kevin?
No, I'll go next, if that's all right.
That's probably just as well, Peter, because being a lawyer, you're probably billing us in 6 minute increments.
Indeed I am. I am a partner at Aldersons in Ringwood, a long-standing firm there since 1964, just opposite the lake. We've got 30 plus employees. I joined Aldersons in 1980 as a junior solicitor when we only had a staff of about 10, and one of those was a fellow called Ian Walsh, who'd been at the firm for 5 years at that time. And he's one of the most extraordinary people I have ever met. He was our telephonist, receptionist, operating one of the plug and cord telephone systems that Les mentioned earlier on. He apparently didn't start out as a receptionist. The partners at that time decided that he would just be a telephonist. And he was working the plug-in cord telephone system in the strong room. And Ian said, well, this is a bit ridiculous, me sitting here in the strong room when there are all these clients coming in, and I might as well be out in reception chatting to them. And so they moved him out into reception, and there started a most fabulous career. Ian, in fact, had previously been a fitter and turner, but he had a degenerative eye problem, which had rendered him unable to see fully. He was playing blind cricket and was hit in his one good eye with a blind cricket ball, and that rendered him totally without sight, and so he needed to find a new occupation. And it just so happened that about that time the partners of the firm were looking for a new receptionist, and they decided to employ a blind person. They ran the Victorian Institute for the Blind, and they said they had this most wonderful person who was ready to come and work for us. What we didn't know was that Ian, having lost his eyesight, had gone to the Institute. He was profoundly depressed at the time, as you can imagine. He was married with a young child and couldn't work anymore. And he didn't have any skills that he could really use as a blind person, he didn't think. But the Institute rang him and said, look, we've got this job. Do you reckon he could be a telephonist? And he said yes, he thought he'd give it a crack. And so when we rang, they didn't in fact have a telephonist, they had Ian, who had no skills at all, but they put him on this absolute crash course. Over a week or so, they told us that we'd have to wait a couple of weeks because we were on holidays. And Ian turned up, and it was, I think, probably the best move that Aldersons ever made. He has been an incredibly loyal employee. I know he's been offered jobs organising blind sport, but he's turned them down. He, in fact, is a magnificent sportsman. We're not here to talk about his sport, but he has played blind cricket for 45 odd years. He's played for Victoria, he's captained Victoria, he's captained Australia, he's been voted the best blind cricketer in the world. And he's just a great bloke. Talk to you about any sport. He's like Simon, he's a mad Essendon supporter, goes every week. And he's just your average bloke. He's hard-working, he's incredibly dependable, seldom absent, seldom sick, sets a great example for the rest of the staff. He's very capable. He is incredibly popular with the staff and with clients. I couldn't speak more highly of him. As to the jobs he does, as our receptionist, and when our clients walk in the door, often they don't have to speak, he knows who it is from how they walk. If they've only got to say a couple of words and he knows exactly who it is if he's met them before. He doesn't forget clients. They can come in years after the event and say hello Ian, and he'll say hello whoever it is. He has a great connection with all of our staff. As to other jobs that we've got Ian doing, he supervises our daily mail out, weighing the letters and putting the appropriate stamps on them, mailing them. Some going to a system called DX, some going to another system. We've worked out devised a plan for that, so the letters go in different trays. He's in charge of our stock, all our paper, pens, staples, all those sorts of things, and does a magnificent job there. The only problem is stacking. He's not so good at stacking them because he's got to come and ask somebody which way is up, or which are the green envelopes and which are the blue ones. But apart from that, he's fabulous. You forget, in fact, that he isn't sighted. He walks around the office just normally. He knows it like the back of his hand. I've seen him come unstuck on a couple of occasions where he's become disorientated and walked straight into walls and things. And we do warn any visitors to our office, you never stand still in the corridors without saying anything, because Ian will come walking along and walk straight over the top of you. But all up, I would say that he has been the most fabulous employee. He's been a tremendously binding influence on the staff at the office, and has been a key to the longevity of most of the staff there, because most of the people at our office have been working with us for 20 plus years. The last thing I'll say about Ian is I've fallen out with his wonderful wife recently, because Ian loves to do all the jobs that normal people do. You can go around to his place, which is in Croydon Hills just near me, and to drop in on him, and he'll be up on the roof cleaning out the gutters, or building a new carport or whatever. Anyway, I went round on one occasion and he was chopping the wood. And what he does is he puts the wood down, feels where it is, then he's got the axe in the other hand and he goes whack, and then goes and finds the wood and sees whether he got it cut properly, and if he doesn't, he has another go at it. And anyway, I was there watching him chop the wood and chatting to him, and I said, "Oh, you're a bit of a weak dog, Ian. Why don't you have a chainsaw?" And to my horror, about a week afterwards, his wife rang me and gave me the rounds of the kitchen, because Ian had gone out and bought himself a chainsaw. That's the sort of bloke he is. He's a can-do person, and as I said, the most fantastic employee you could possibly imagine. And I'd strongly recommend that anybody like Ian to any prospective employer. So, thank you very much.
Thank you for that very personal perspective. That's terrific. And so far, so good with the Chainsaw?
Yes, his wife insists on supervising. Yes.
She'll be longing for warmer weather, I'm sure. Kevin, do you feel like taking the stage, ladies and gentlemen? Kevin Hall, Director of the Eastern Food Alliance.
Sorry about the voice, guys. I've got a cold that it's catching at the moment. So the Director of Eastern Food Alliance. I'm also the Director of two other social enterprises, Australian Community Logistics in Broadmeadows, Peninsula Food Alliance in Seaford, and here in Kilsyth and Eastern Food Alliance. I'm also the Director of a social enterprise in the UK, in Oxfordshire, which opens in 3 days' time. So it's quite an exciting time. So I'm a busy person, as you know. My venture into social enterprise happened 4 years ago. I went to a conference in Dandenong where Food Bank and Second Bite were talking, and I was working for William Angliss as a food safety trainer, and they were talking about people going without food every day, and it basically shocked me to my core because I didn't realise I come from Sunbury. I don't see homeless people walking around Sunbury, people going hungry, and it made me realise that I needed to, well, when I first arrived on Australia 14 years ago, the Australian Way people helped myself and my wife settle here. So it just seemed right that I should give back to my community, and I volunteered at our local food bank in Sunbury and realised that there was just 1 day a month I could actually make a positive difference to a lot of people within my own community. So we started to actually look at a food programme, because we didn't have any food to give out to people then. It was just about training them and helping them with other needs. So I went to see Food Bank and Second Bite, and we set up a food programme for Sunbury and started to get food actually brought to Sunbury. And we started to feed about 350 families every week in Sunbury, which kind of shocked me on the number. And then the Mayor of Hume came to see me, Jeff Porter at the time, and he said, well, Kevin, you're a passionate person, you really want to feed everybody, what about Craigieburn and Broadmeadows? And I was like, I've only got 1 day a month I can really dedicate. So I just made the positive change to come out of the commercial world and not work for William Angliss anymore, and actually commit the rest of my working life to helping others in the community, which I think I'm quite lucky to do. My wife runs a training organisation, so it allows me to do that. So I consider myself fortunate to be able to help the community, of course. So out of that came the venture of A Gesture, Food for the Community, which was our first social enterprise in 2010. And what it did, it partnered with Second Bite, and our purpose was that we want to make sure that every Australian has access to healthy food. If you know, most of you probably know about Second Bite. They've been going for 5 years. They work with Coles, Woolworths and Costco, and they rescue all the food that would go generally into landfill, which has just been ordered in and can't go on the shelves. And it's about, every store has about 3 tonnes of wheat that they would just tip into the bin. So what we do now, we actually partnered with a transport company. They give us vans which are all refrigerated, and we go and pick that food up from every Coles and Woolworths store now and bring it to our warehouses. So about 1.5 tonnes of food every day gets picked up, comes into the warehouses. It's all mixed up because it's been taken off the shelves by 16-year-old boys and girls who don't really think about where food goes. So it's mixed up with food and non-food. And the role of the people with disabilities and people that are job seekers in our warehouses to separate that food. We make it into hampers and distribute that out to agencies free of charge all over Melbourne. So our warehouse is currently feeding, in terms of our outcomes, we feed about 16,000 people a week, and all that food goes to those agencies free of charge. We don't charge a single cent. As you know, when people talk about social enterprise and ask all the different questions about how do they run those, how do they pay for all those things, obviously what we've created is an education and training model in our warehouses, and use all the federal and state funding that you can possibly think of to make sure that food is never charged for to those people who really need it in our community. Now we get some challenges around that. People criticise us for saying you're taking all the dollars you can, Kevin, to make all this happen, and I go, of course, the government's saying we should be innovative in the social space, so we're being innovative. So I was asked to talk about, obviously, some of the challenges. Coming into social enterprise, I've never worked in that sector before. For those of you who work there, will know it's a very political space. It's like bringing Salvos and St. Lee's together and saying it's working in harmony. I'd love to say that's reality. And yes, they do amazing things, and I obviously give credit to those. But we just simply say that we don't make any political statements. We don't make any have any religious beliefs. Our purpose is that if someone needs food, we've got access to food, we'll move it to them free of charge. The disability sector came upon chance that obviously a DES provider came to see me in Broadmeadows and said, look, all these people with disabilities, can they come and volunteer at your warehouse? And the first question that came to our mind was, well, if I've got volunteers coming in to work in the warehouse and they're doing a physical job and creating an output which is a hamper, is it right that they shouldn't be paid for that? So we had to make a positive decision. Shall we have volunteers or shall we have paid employees? And so we make a positive step at that stage to say, right, from here on in, 40% of our workforce, and we do give it a number, will be people with disabilities that we'll employ and pay them exactly the same wage as the able-bodied people, much as the gentleman said on the screen. So that's just one of our statements that we make. We also have an inclusive workspace, so any person with any mental illness or disability, whatever the barrier is, as an employer or a human being, I mean, the government are talking about the civil society at the moment, aren't they? It's one of their terms. We underline that by saying, well, we have to do everything we can to accommodate their needs. And in return, what do we get? Currently our outcomes over 4 years, productivity sitting at 91%, retention 95% from the people with disabilities. Like the gentleman up there, we have to push them to go home at night because they're going back to some very difficult households. And they find when they come in, they get treated like every other able-bodied person. And what I'd like to talk about is that they have respect, dignity, and we treat them like normal human beings. We don't allow the word disability actually to be used in the workplace. It's about their ability. They have 2 arms and 2 legs in most cases, and their job is to sort food and feed other members of the community that are less or more disadvantaged than they are. And when they don't get that story, because we do have some very difficult people that have had very hard lives with disability, we send them out in the van, we call it humbleising them. They go and actually serve the food at the homeless programs, and they realise that their life and their challenges aren't quite as difficult as other people in the community. So where's Clergy on from here? We recently got recognised in the Victorian Disability Awards for Employer of the Year, so thank you to the support of Marinda for that with Ray, because she nominated us without us knowing, thank you. But it's not about awards, guys, and patting ourselves on the chest and saying we are the best, because we have challenges like every employer. But it gives us a chance to advocate for those who can't be heard, and we talk about their challenges in the workplace. And for those employees in the room, my message would simply be this, that there is federal and state funding, lots of it, to help you modify your workplace to accommodate that person's needs. And I think as every Australian, I recently became a citizen 2 weeks ago, so I can talk about that now, even with an English accent. Thank you. It's about making sure that we accommodate their needs. And all I can say is that I get up in the morning, and this is truthful, I say I'm very lucky to work with those guys. They require little or no supervision whatsoever, so that's a cost saving in itself. They have reduced their medication in a lot of cases, so people ask me, what's the positive impact of your program? Is it about jobs for those disability providers in the room, or JSA? No, it's about outcomes. No, it's about all the soft skills development we do with these people, and if they reduce their medication, what is the saving to the prescriptions that those guys have come off? And if they're more manageable back at the JSA or DES provider and closer to work, isn't that a positive impact as well? Unfortunately, it's not always measured, but I do have to give some credit to the department, because I think that philosophy is changing, and they realise that we in social enterprise have a role to play in helping industry connect with those people. So we are stepping stones back for those people back to employment, and that's what they consider us to be. And I just like to embrace and say that they are the hidden workforce that employers must embrace as a way of cost saving, because it's tough in business out there at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Neil Murphy, Group Coordinator, Social Justice Advocacy with St John of God Healthcare. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ben. I agreed to talk last because I'm used to seeing people when I speak to discover that they've got something more important to go. So if you need to leave, it won't be surprising to myself. St John God Healthcare, for over 2 years now, been looking at itself and its systems and processes to better include people with a disability to develop their careers with us. Absolutely instrumental to where we've got today is partnership with NDRC, the National Disability Recruitment Coordinator, which Lucy is here and she's going to be saying a few words about later on. We actually looked at 4 areas. We looked at our recruitment process, we looked at our understanding around disability as an organisation, we looked at our HR attitudes, and another area which I can't remember at present. But what we did was, through discussions with people who have a disability, we discovered that one of the major barriers to people with disability gaining employment is access to an interview. And so what we did was we employed a guaranteed interview policy within St John of God Healthcare, which means that if you are registered with the DES and you meet the inherent requirements of the role, we will guarantee an interview. That doesn't mean that if 5 people from a Disability Employment Service apply for the position, or 5 will get interviewed, but we will guarantee at least 1 of any vacancy. Should someone apply, they will get an interview. We also adopted the practice of earmarking positions for people exclusively registered with the Disability Employment Service. So what that means is, through 9 of our hospitals in Victoria, or 4 of our hospitals in WA, there are positions which we will earmark exclusively for people with a disability. Whether it is competitive environment where it's thrown out into the market, anyone can apply. But if we really wanted to change our systems and processes, if we really wanted to change, creating better opportunities for people with disability to be employed, we had to change our attitudes. And so all our senior leaders, all our management have gone through, and will continue to go through, disability formation, not disability training. This isn't about compliance. This is around informed attitude to life. This is around appreciating, as privileged people we are, to find ourselves in employment, to find ourselves in significant positions of influence, how we can inform the lives of other people, how we can support success in the lives of other people, just as we support success in our own lives too. So what we do, we looked at our system of recruitment, online recruitment, and we ask significant questions. We do ask, do you have a disability? They don't have to answer it. We ask, are you registered with the Disability Employment Service? They don't have to answer it. And we ask, in the light of being invited to an interview, are there any support requirements that you need? That's a polite question. As St John of God Healthcare, we talk about, within our values, respect and excellence. And in our approach to recruiting people with disability into vacant positions, our expectation of excellence has not diminished. I sometimes think it's a little condescending on occasion, where we do not believe that people with a disability cannot attain the excellence that we require from other people. And so a great deal of formation is required there around our own thinking. And as an organisation, we need to continually remind ourselves of that principle, that this isn't about a benevolent approach, this is about achieving excellence. And people with a disability can support an organisation to achieve excellence. I believe that as an organisation we have moved along, thanks to NDRC, thanks to proactive attitudes within the organisation, in becoming the organisation that we say we are. That is an organisation that wants to achieve excellence, and an organisation that is prepared to look for that excellence in all people, not just a few people. I was so pleased that the question was asked today, what about quotas? What about, let's just say by 2015 we'll have 10 people with a disability. We don't do that. What we say is that our systems and processes will support everybody to apply for our positions. Now, there's going to be some people who have a disability who will require particular attention and particular support. That says more about the society we live in rather than their disability, where we have to do that so we can give them a voice to say, actually, it's us, not anyone else that have come before you. If you want statistics, we can give you statistics. Since July 2013, prior to there, we had very little to no people with a disability applying for a position. Since then, and again thanks to NDRC, we have had over 100 people registered with the Disability Employment Service applying for vacant positions. Of those 100 plus, about 69 have been interviewed, and of those 69, approximately 30 have been employed, and of those 30 that have been employed, they're successfully employed and remain successfully employed. We don't say we will take nutrients, we will take Down syndrome, we will take as though it's an object. We will recruit people who display the excellence that we are looking for. And if you happen to have a disability, don't be too concerned, because we are not. So, gone over my time by a few seconds. The ingredients you need to be a successful employer is number one, a vacancy, and number two, partnership with NDRC. I guarantee you success. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.